Hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you might be. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Anna, if you're new to the channel, and I schedule the yarning video on a Sunday. Now, I think some people might not understand why I call it the yarning. I might actually have to change the name of this channel, simply because here in Australia we call yarning just having a chat. Okay, not everybody does, but of course I'm of the older school, and I grew up with the have a yarn, have a chat kind of terminology, because that's the nature of my family and the environment that I lived in. But I think a lot of people don't understand that yarning is having a chat. I think they might actually suspect or believe that when I say have a yarn, I'm talking about pulling out my knitting needles, which is not the case at all. Anyway, basically, today I'm just going to give you a little bit of insight around strategies for communication, based on some of the content that I've been loading up. And if you're new, if you're not new, if you're a returning visitor, particularly want to say thank you very much for your ongoing support. But just a reminder, I love to have interaction. At some point in time, I would enjoy being able to communicate directly with people and do the chat facility where it's interactive, because to me, I feel very much like this is a one-sided conversation, which is not something I'm particularly comfortable with. Such as life, I'll crack on with it anyway. So today, as I said, we're going to be focusing on some of the communication tips that I've picked up along the years that people might benefit from. In the meantime, what can I say? Just hope you're having a glorious week. I hope the content is useful to you. Moving on. So while this might be a bit of a messy slide, I figured I'd just stick with this one rather than make a whole heap of them. When we talk about communication and verbal expression, or the capacity to communicate with other people in any way, shape or form, be it through the written form or just through speaking to people, obviously we all have different challenges. Some people are you'll know this, some people you speak to and they've got a very soft, gentle expression. They can tell you what they feel without sounding judgmental, without sounding harsh. Other people, when they speak the truth, it can come across pretty hard and judgmental. Sometimes it can even sound aggressive, even when a person's not being aggressive. That is their natural way of talking. Now, all of this is actually centered. The reason I put the chakra image here is because it's actually, I wanted to identify, when we talk about communication on an energy level and the chakra system, it's the throat chakra that governs our capacity to express and interact with other people. Incidentally, it's also said to be some people call it the seat of the soul when it comes to being able to do mediumship. But today I'm going to focus directly on the verbal expression, shall we say, and enhancing that. I might drift over to the mediumship later, but either way, so it's centered in the throat chakra. Now, I first learned about the benefits of the use of crystals way back in about 2000, and this is because I'm not sure if you can pick up by my own speak, but I tend to be a very direct and abrupt speaker. And what happens is, when we're very direct and abrupt, is that we don't necessarily wrap what we're trying to say up in a whole heap of fluffy words. We just speak our truth, because in my experience of being a direct speaker, when I try and wrap the words up and make them sound more palatable to the person that I'm talking to, it actually ends up coming across insincere. So I reached the point that I'd rather speak more succinctly to people and just say it as it is, but try and say it with kindness. Now, back in the day, as I say, I learned that crystals can be beneficial. And the first one that I was introduced to was actually blue lace agate, which is this beautiful crystal that you see on the left-hand side of the screen. I have put the names up, but just in case it's not clear to you, blue lace agate has got a range of shades of blues on it, and it has these striations, the stripes that run through it. It's a very beautiful crystal. Now, I used to wear it as a pendant so that it was close to my throat to enhance my personal expression. But while I would say I did find benefit for that, I certainly became more confident and open about speaking my feelings. I can't say that it made me super soft and gentle in my speak. We can still hear that obviously I can be very straightforward. But I just thought I'd give some background there about why I ended up going towards this blue lace agate. And that was because I had completely lost, due to my life experiences, I was unable to verbalize my feelings at all. And I do recall around about that time, I had just come into the recognition that if I was asked to speak my truth, if somebody said, just tell me honestly how you feel, I wouldn't be able to talk and my throat would choke up, and I would talk with my hands and just drop little words and let them interpret what it was I was trying to convey, and then I would nod and say yes or yeah, no, you didn't get that right, or whatever. So basically I was hugely verbally challenged at the time, but that was due to a long experience of being shut down and invalidated. So I did find benefit with blue lace agate is where I'm going. Then later on I learned about aquamarine, because of course aquamarine is one that's far more emotionally gentle. I would say that if we were going to look at crystals to soften the speak, which probably is a crystal that I could use here at this point in time, I might have to think about that. Aquamarine is one that softens it. This is the one that if you were aspiring to be that person that just gently reassures people. I've worked in human services where people are suffering really badly, and although I'm a direct speaker and supportive, it's if somebody's very sensitive and reactive, if you're working with these kind of people, then when we fail or when it's beyond our capacity to wrap our truth up or our responses in this very gentle and soft maternal way, it can actually trigger some people. So this doesn't mean that we're responsible for the way they react, because we're still well-intentioned and meaning well. But what it means is if we want to go to that stage and actually adjust our communication style as part of being this service worker, if we're into doing service work, then aquamarine is going to be a very good crystal to use. The other one that I put up was blue calcite. That was another one I used to hold during the meditation state. Now, I just want to make clear here, it's difficult to get images to really portray the colours that I would expect a crystal to have when I'm buying. Now, I did used to sell crystals as well, remember. Blue calcite is kind of like the image that I've got here next to the blue lace agate, but it's kind of a lump of rock that's got little squares, and I don't even know how to describe it. Probably a little bit like calcite, but more compacted than the calcite, than the celestite rather. But yeah, just be careful is where I'm going if you're going to buy crystals online, because a lot of these crystal wholesalers, they're actually quite clever these days, and they can dye rocks and make them certain colours. And this is why you actually really need to inform yourself. Perhaps use your Google and go to geology sites and that kind of thing and get a really good look at what calcite might look like, so that you know when they put their photographs up on these crystal wholesaler websites, as to whether or not that's a genuine article. Because, look, all crystals are going to hold healing properties, I believe. They're from the earth. But at the same time, we want to be able to get what we paid for. Celestite is an amazing crystal. I use that when I'm actually doing psychic readings. I will actually center and ground and hold celestite. I've got a number of pieces of it because it's just beautiful. It's very soft and gentle, and it's associated with what we call the angelic communication, or being able to communicate with people's guides, the light beings. Might not be what you're into, but certainly for me, I love it. Turquoise is another good one. It's really good for helping to balance out your throat chakra. But I would say you would probably be drawn to turquoise more if you're one of these flowery speakers where you're indirect and you tend to talk around or about a subject when you're expressing. And the reason I say that is because if you look at the colour turquoise, you're seeing a crystal that carries the blues of the throat chakra, but it's also got those darker striations. Now, when we see the darker striations in it or the crackling and that kind of stuff, we're talking about a crystal that carries the properties of practicality and relevance, shall we say, on the earth plane. So perhaps you might wear turquoise when you're in a business situation. You need to be able to talk straight to the facts. That's probably where you get the best benefit out of turquoise. And I just put these feathers up underneath the turquoise image here on the right, because that's kind of the colour that we would be looking for, perhaps a little bit bluer than that. But anyway, there's a couple of tips for you. Oh, before I go, I haven't got a photograph up, but another beautiful crystal that's very good for the throat chakra is actually the crystal Larimar. And yeah, just do a Google, look at the geology stuff so you can identify it, and then look at the colours to, when you're actually doing your buying. Try and find something that's directly related colour-wise to the throat chakra, or as near as possible. And actually, there's another tip that I can get for you. If you have genuine double-pointed clear quartz, energy is not, well, energy is unlimited. You can do whatever you want. I got a tip many years ago that because some of these crystals have now become hard to come by and quite expensive, that what you can do is actually find a beautiful image, perhaps, of the crystal that you're hoping to use. So let's say you can't find any celestite. You could print off an image of the celestite and place your clear quartz crystal over the top of this image, and then just basically do a little ceremony of invocation, and that is that the clear crystal carries the qualities of, say, the celestite. I'm using that until such time as you want to use it for something else, and then you would just let it sit on the image for as long as you feel guided to. Just a little tip there. If you want more information, let me know, and I might do a video directly on how we can do that. So in case you're not aware, the reason why I've put the focus on Chitter Chatter this week on communication, certainly at this stage, is because I put up the video this week on Onkanon, who is the angel of communication. Now, from my perspective, and I'm pretty sure from the angels, they don't really give a rat's if you believe in angels or not, because you might call them light beings. I know I struggled with the concept of angels when I first came across them. But either way, Onkanon was actually one of the first angels I learned to really connect with on a conscious and awareness level, because I had a situation that needed to be addressed and it needed to be mediated. And while the information wasn't in the book about mediation, I struggled to try and find a practical way to resolve this communication breakdown that was happening in my life. So where I'm going with this is I actually called upon her that if she, if it was appropriate in the best interests of all parties, all of this kind of thing, that she intervene and use her powers to resolve it. And obviously, actually it did. I can't honestly say that I felt energy when I was connecting with her at the time, but what I can say is within about half an hour of me doing the invocation and calling, the miracle occurred, which was pretty amazing. So yeah, I thought I will focus on the communication aspect, and just in this video remind people that everything is possible when we're working with divine energy, with respect and regard to the divine idea. Nothing is impossible. So if you're addressing problems in your life that might be resolved by communication, open and transparent in loving ways, and this includes overcoming barriers where doors have been slammed, where you might have moved on from people and you're no longer in contact, there might be a family rift or whatever, you can actually call upon Onkanon to help resolve any issues around that. Or you don't have to, it's up to you. But just a reminder, be as creative as you feel that you need to be or as you're guided to be, and be aware that you can call upon Onkanon and the angel of communication anytime you choose to. And unless you actually invite them in, they're not going to step in, because that would be a breach of spiritual law. They have to be invited in before they can offer their assistance to you. So speaking of my experiences using Onkanon, this actually leads into the next video that we're loading this week, which is yet to be seen. I think it's on the Thursday. And this is the video of Hamied, who is known as the Angel of Miracles. Now, primarily his content refers to the fact, actually, so I'll give you a little bit of a taste test, that what we as humans, because we live in this whole world of limitation of, oh, it can't be possible, things like that don't happen or whatever. So when we see angelic blessings, we automatically assume that it's a miracle, whereas his reminder is, no, they're angel blessings. When we talk about being showered in blessings, I'm not even going to try and explain that, because this is where words doesn't do it justice, and I'd have to put some more thought in it. But either way, if you need a miracle, he's the man. He's the man. He's the man angel. As we know, angels are genderless, but of course, for me, I associate him with the masculine presence. So I say he's the man with the wings that actually helps us out with these wonderful blessings, and just incredible. But anyway, that video is coming up this Thursday. So this particular slide is actually dedicated to, I think it's pronounced Loader 1408. So I just want to acknowledge, obviously, the comments that you made, and thank you for actually participating. I feel very isolated and alone sometimes when I'm putting together the content, so the feedback is really good for me to see that somebody's actually watched the video and recognized, become aware of the links between their numerology and their actual body, if you like. So for those people that aren't aware, I'm just going to call you Loader, maybe. Loader has identified that in his birth chart, he actually has the arrow of poor memory, and he has said that this is actually applicable. He does suffer from a poor memory. Now, I'm not sure how old Loader is, but obviously, if somebody's got an arrow of poor memory, it's going to show in their birth chart from the moment they're born. So we as parents would be best advised to actually work with the child while they're young, giving them activities that will assist them to support and develop memory retention. Now, the fact that obviously Loader is an adult doesn't mean that he's unable to actually work on this. And the beauty of it is that scientific evidence has said that the brain is it's got neuroplasticity. Now, I'm not a scientist, okay? So I just want to make this very clear before the people that are trained schema therapists and that kind of thing read the content and go, you got that wrong, okay? The idea, as I understand it, is that it is a muscle, and as with all muscles, we can work it, we can develop it, and we can improve its function. Now, I did a quick Google myself because I thought I'm going to help out. This is interesting for me, as well as for Loader, I would imagine, on how do we actually develop the brain and to improve our memory. Well, there's a number of activities, and I'm going to give you my feedback and thoughts around what activities would be really beneficial, perhaps in ways that you hadn't imagined. Now, meditation actually is up there as number one when it comes to the scientific research, but they talk about doing visualizations. Now, what you might not be aware of, in the spiritual field, we actually call visualized meditation, is quite often called a guided meditation. And this is something that I'm aiming to put together down the track. And the reason being that when people start to try and meditate, it actually can take a while. It's considered to be a mastery, if you like, and not everybody can go into it straight away, and they need to have this voice in the background or something to focus their attention on whilst they go into the meditative state until they become comfortable for it. So a prime example of what this might look like, if we're talking about a visualized meditation, is simply, if you look on the right hand side of this screen, I've got this little circle with the ball spinning around. Now, what you would do is you would focus your attention on that ball. It's about improving the concentration as well. So this is a brain exercise, and if you wanted to combine it with meditation, you just would do that whole process of stating your intent. Basically, you're telling your brain whether you believe in angels, light beings, or spirit or not is not relevant for this. You just put your intention, you're telling yourself, you're affirming to yourself that you're going to develop your brain matter, you're going to improve your memory, and then you put your focus on your breath, you allow yourself to relax, and then you would just concentrate on this little pink ball that's spinning around there for as long as you feel the need to. Now, obviously, there's a number of other activities you can do, like crossword puzzles. I'm not going to run into all of them, but I will say things that I have observed is like learning a new language or learning a new skill is actually really good for it. Sudoku, for those people who struggle with that right hand, left hand balance, you can do Sudoku. Now, the thing that I want to draw to your attention is here, when we talk about the arrow of poor memory in a person's numerology birth chart, there is a risk of them going into early dementia or early Alzheimer's or whatever. They're more susceptible, basically, based on the numerology. I've got nothing to back that up except for numerology, just to be clear. So the idea is that if you've got that arrow of poor memory, Loda, that definitely you start working on it now, because I'm pretty sure and confident that while we've got a full packet of marbles, we don't really want to be encouraging the loss of our brain function, shall we say. Now, the other thing that I would make the point of, because I did years ago recognise that I personally had an imbalance in my brain function, shall we say. I'd become way too focused on energy in non-practical ways, and so I didn't have a balance in my life, and I decided to use Sudoku. Now, just a reminder before you start on these activities, because the brain is a muscle and we're teaching it a new task, based on my experience, it was a real brain strain. And I remember when I was looking at the Sudoku, I actually stuck at that for 12 hours non-straight. Now, my brain hurt at the end of 12 hours and I was drained and exhausted. And so the muscle of the brain can become fatigued as well, but it repairs during the sleep state. So just the reminder that the brain is a muscle. I'm going to mention that. This is why I've got this little image up here of the brain pushing weights. As with any muscle, if we've been letting it get a bit lazy or whatever, we don't do what I did, which was go in there and do 12 hours straight. We build ourselves. So if it means that you're doing 5 minutes a day and building up to 10 minutes to building up to being able to do it for half an hour, you're being kind to your muscle of the brain and you're letting it develop its strength, okay? So, a little bit each day and you'll get there. Good luck with that. I've got some more information on the next slide, though, if you're into the metaphysical properties. Another messy slide for you, but it gives all the information that's needed, basically. Okay, so if you're into crystals and meditation, what you can do is take it on board that basically the brain is an area of the body that is governed by the crown chakra and the brow chakra. So any of the crystals, generally speaking, that have got the indigo, the lavender or the purple type colours, they're going to be very good as far as supporting memory retention and memory improvement. I personally think that selenite is probably the way to go, because I love selenite, of course, but I'm going to break it down a little bit more for you. I do a Google every now and again to get an idea. Well, in fact, actually quite often, so no point fibbing about it. I do go and do a Google and see what the current conversation is around the information, just to see if there's developments based on my experiences. And sometimes I end up thinking, do they all go to the same book? But anyway, that's beside the point. Okay, so from just hazarding a guess, I would say when it comes to the intake of information, let's say that you decide that you want to learn how to speak a new language, if this is one of the things that you're taking on board. So for information processing, you will probably want to use a crystal that's got blues and purples and indigos, because these areas govern the information input, if you like, the processing of new information and being able to understand it, more so than actually retaining the information. When it comes to the memory retention, this is why I mentioned selenite, right, is because I would be inclined to lean more towards white or clear coloured crystals. So selenite is a good one. Another one I would recommend potentially is rutilate quartz, if you're into that. And I have another one that I used when I was at university to assist me, not only with focusing my attention when I was studying and to be able to concentrate, because that was a real challenge to start with. I hadn't been to school for, good Lord, probably about 25 years before I started studying at uni. But what I used to use was red garnet. Now, I've done a Google. This is why, honest to goodness, a person must follow their own intuitive guidance when it comes to picking crystals for any particular thing, because currently what I'm seeing online is garnet is not associated, red garnet, by other people with focus and concentration. It's all about sexuality, apparently, these days, and base needs. Now, this is why I'm like, really? Which book did these people go to? You know, I mean, that's a part of the properties of garnet because it is red, but not based on my experience. For me, it was about concentrating and actually building. Oh, goodness me. Building upon foundations, I guess, is a better way of describing it. So I would recommend, if you were looking at studying, that you use the red garnet, okay? But speaking further about crystal prescriptions, I won't make any more. There's a number of different crystals that you can use, because when it comes to memory retention, if we're talking about an individual, there's going to be a whole heap of underlying issues that may actually impact on memory recollection, and without knowing the person's entire scenario. And this may be revealed in a birth report. It might show these repetitions and patterns, and we could make a recommendation from that. But basically, I do make recommendations to people when I do a reading with them, but it's based on what they're experiencing. So where I'm going with this is, you might benefit from other crystals as well, but follow your own guidance at this point in time, because there's a whole range of things that might impact. Now, my recommendations here, I've put these little images just to explain them. Charoite is brilliant for many things, including expansion of the mind awareness as well as memory retention. And charoite you can sometimes see, not just with these striations that you've got here, but sometimes it's got a couple of little black spots in there. And the other one is sugarlight. Now, sugarlight is another one that would be very good for information processing, learning, and this kind of thing. These other little graphics that I've put up, these would be, I guess, recommendations. If you were going to do the meditation aspect, you can do what is called a mindful exercise, which is still meditation. So many different ways to do things. We can be creative, right? If it were me and I was trying to focus my attention, I would probably be holding a charoite crystal in my hand, watching this little ball as an example. It's a brain exercise, watching it go up and down this chart and just focusing my eyes on that ball. At the same time, you can't see my cursor, go up to that little elephant on the right-hand side of the road. Really? Goodness me. Slide. That little elephant that's doing the breathing. I have put up a video on how to do breathing for health, and I'm not going to go into it here because the video is already getting too long. But what you would do is you kind of focus on the ball with your eyes and then focus on your breathing. Just get that breathing regulation happening. You can also Google how to do the breath. Okay, breath work would be another thing if you don't want to go through my playlist and find the video. But anyway, all of that, you should start to see improvement happening with your memory retention. Now, interesting factor, there was a guy who was a politician here in Australia. He was retired. Without going into stories, a man lived for a very long time, and he was alert until the day he died. His mind was so active. What I learned was that for the course of his entire life, he actually used to do brain activities, brain exercises, which is probably why he stayed as astute as what he did. Anyway, just moving on from that. Just again, I want to thank you before I crack on, okay? Thank you very much. Hopefully you will find some information here that's useful to you. So all the color content is up, just moving forward now with this video because it's getting very long. So what I'm going to do going forward is actually I'm just going to touch upon what we've loaded so that you're aware of it, just in case you missed the announcements. And I'm going to then talk about what's coming up. And as I say, it'll just be a brief introduction. If you want to know more, you can go and check it out, okay? But I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about the color. Just suffice to say for now, just understand or know, I have finished all the videos for now. They're all loaded and scheduled so that I can put my focus of energy onto doing the angel content right now. And as soon as I've got that sorted and scheduled, then I'm able to go on to this other special project that's at the back of my mind that I want to share with you at some point in time. So watermelon is actually, that's gone up, and just a reminder, this is about being playful and accessing the inner child, that aspect of yourself. If I was actually talking about crystals, I'd be talking about watermelon tourmaline with this one, just so you know. The burgundy colour video has gone up this week as well, so you'll be able to find that on the playlist already. It's public. Now, this is about finding your life purpose, your passion, your meaning, and to get a bit of enthusiasm in your life if it's become a bit dull and boring for you. Obviously, it's on the colour playlist now. So coming up with the colour videos, we've got coral this week, and this is a colour of divine connection, which is quite interesting, really. It's always a bit of a challenge to get the hues and shades right on an image, I guess. It doesn't matter though, because at the end of the day, when you try and visualize, it comes to you in the perfect shade for you. And the other video that's coming up this week is actually the color of tangerine. Now, I actually am really drawn to this color at the moment. It's a creative color, obviously associated with the orange chakra. So there's a level of passion, enthusiasm, zest, vitality, all of that positive stuff that is associated with this color. So I guess in some ways, I don't say this on the video because I'm far more professional. But as I say this now in my yarning, I'm thinking, that's probably a universal kick up the backside to me to get creative and get active and get on with this other project that I keep talking about but haven't started. Anyway, that one's coming up this week. So once again, while I am still creating art, I don't actually have an art reel to put up because I don't have enough of them, to be honest. I don't have enough images that have got enough variation there. But these are a couple that I've actually worked on this week, and frankly, I like them. Do you have a preference? I think I actually really like the one in the middle. I even find the guy on the left a little interesting because he's a bit different to some of the other ones I create. As for the quotes, yes, they continue to go up. And in fact, I've got to work on one of those in a moment because I'm trying to get ahead with those and schedule them as well. And also to put up the numerology forecast. Never mind. Anyway, right now, that's it, my friends. I'm going to say love you, leave you. Thank you very much for being part of my journey. So with all that being said, I will wish you a blessed day, happy week, all the rest of it. And then just ask you, do the old plug that everybody does on YouTube. If you like the content, please do consider subscribing to the channel. I was loading a lot of content because I was trying to get on top of the universal laws and this kind of thing. If you know much about me, if you've had much to do with the channel, you will know that I am trying to get as much information out there as quickly as I can as part of empowering people to live with hope and to create this divine connection that gives their life meaning and purpose and all the rest of it. And so, yeah, the focus was in the past on really churning out content, whereas now I'm starting to slow down a little bit. I've got a plan in my head where it might be, say, 2 or 3 videos a week, no more than 3. I'm happy at the moment to stick with, actually, you know what, ideally, and I'm just talking right now about it, I haven't put a great deal of thought in it. Ideally, going forward, I would love to do an interactive channel video where we discuss and talk together once a week. Then provide perhaps information on crystals, or there's other content. I don't want to give too much away. Perhaps another self-help video, if you like, once a week as well. But anyway, I'll think about it. Either way, please consider subscribing to the channel, or at least liking the content that you do like. You don't have to fake it. And then if you've got questions, make a comment because I'll always try and respond to it. Until next time, my friends, I'm going to say love you, leave you, have a great day. Bye-bye for now.